What are the basics of a personal injury case? How do you handle it if you've been injured in a case? What do you need to do? How does it work? All right. First of all, let's say you've had an event where you've been injured. You've slipped and fallen and you fractured an ankle, or you were involved in a car accident, or you were involved in a construction site accident, something like that. The first thing you need to do is you need to take care of yourself medically. You need to get appropriate treatment to deal with your injuries so that you can get back on the path of getting better. Worry about an attorney, worry about litigation after you've taken care of your medical condition. The next step is contacting an attorney. What do you do? When you go to an attorney's office, make sure that you know what has gone on. You've got any documents associated with your accident with you, like an accident report, a police report, if there was a workers' comp situation, that you've got the accident or incident report. I think sometimes they call it a C2. It's a document that is filed with the Workers' Compensation Board that is essentially an accident report, and that you have a copy of that if you're able to acquire that. Make sure you have a list of all your medical care providers that you've seen, names, addresses, phone numbers, so that your attorney can have that. Make sure that if you've taken pictures, bring your pictures with you. Most people take their pictures on their cell phone. If you're involved in an auto accident and you were able to take pictures of the scene and you were able to take pictures of the vehicles, make sure you bring those with you. Or if somebody came, you were taken away by ambulance and somebody you knew took pictures, get the pictures from the person that you knew. The next step is you talk to an attorney. If you retain that attorney, they're going to have you execute what we call HIPAA authorizations so that we can collect your medical records. We're going to go out, we're going to collect your medical records, we're going to determine if what you're telling us and what your injuries are consistent with what's in the medical records, and if everything appears to be a viable case, it lines up, your injuries are sufficient to justify filing suit. The next step is we're going to file suit. We're going to draft a summons and complaint. We're going to go to the county clerk's office. We're going to purchase an index number. We're going to file the summons and complaint. We're going to send it off to a process server, and they're going to go out and serve the defendant. One of the things that I always tell people, and I caution them about, is that if you're involved in an accident and it's been reported to insurance carriers, those insurance carriers are going to start calling you before you get in to see a lawyer. And what they're going to try to do is they're going to try and talk to you about the accident, and they're going to try to record a statement from you as to what went on. Really what they're doing, they're going to say they're investigating the claim so that they can, adjust the claim and pay for it. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get the person who was injured to admit that they did something wrong, to admit some sort of fault, to minimize their insured's liability and the insurance carrier's liability. So really you shouldn't be talking to the insurance carriers, because they're not there to help you. They're there to minimize what they have to pay out. So don't talk to them. Call an attorney first. After the summons and complaint is served, the person who is served is normally going to turn it over to their insurance carrier. Their insurance carrier is going to assign an attorney to represent them. They're going to serve an answer that denies the allegations and asserts some affirmative defenses. They're going to file and serve discovery demands, demanding things like HIPAA authorizations and medical records, that those be turned over, photographs, witnesses, stuff like that. And all your paper discovery gets exchanged. After all the paper discovery is exchanged, the next step is that you have depositions. What is a deposition? That's an opportunity for the attorney on the other side to ask you, the person that was injured, questions about how the incident happened. What are they doing? Number one, they're sizing you up. How are you going to be as a witness? How are you going to present to a jury? What's it going to look like if you're in front of a jury in whatever county it is that the case is venued in? Are you going to present well, or are you going to look like somebody who's not very sympathetic, who isn't very credible? What's your background like? Are you educated? Are you down on your luck? What is it about you that is going to appeal to jurors, and they're going to start thinking about their jury pool and who they want on the jury and who they don't want on the jury. The next step is they're going to pin down what happened in the accident. One of the things that they train us when an attorney is being trained to take depositions is to paint a picture with words. Ask as many questions as you can about what went on, and paint that picture with words as to what happened and how it happened. And then plaintiffs are going to be asked, after they're done being asked about the accident, they're going to be asked about their medical treatment. Who did they see? What were their complaints? What was the treatment? What was the diagnosis? Were they referred? If they were referred, where were they referred? Did they go? Did they follow up? Was there additional treatment that they had to go through? Were there orthopedic devices that they had to use? And then the attorneys are going to ask you that whole series through all of those different medical care providers that you've been through. Some of the other things that you're going to be asked in the course of a deposition are going to be, is there anything that you can't do now that you could do before the accident? Is there anything that you can only do in a limited capacity that you could do in a greater capacity before this accident? Have you suffered any out-of-pocket expenses? If so, what? If you're married, has there been an impact on your marriage? If so, what has that impact been? And that's your deposition, essentially. Me, as a plaintiff's attorney, I'll be able to ask the defense, the party that we've sued, what happened. I'm going to size them up. I'm going to ask them about the incident. Obviously, they weren't injured, so there aren't going to be very many questions about any medical treatment or anything of that nature because they weren't injured in most instances. After depositions are complete, the next step is doing an independent medical examination. They send you, the plaintiff, to a doctor of their choosing to have them evaluate you. That doctor will have done some workup before you get there, so they will have read your medical records. They will look at all the allegations in the lawsuit, so they'll look at your bill of particulars, they'll look at your pleadings as to what happened, when it happened, and they're going to ask you what happened, and they're going to ask you how things went and what part of your body was injured, if you had injured those parts of your body beforehand. I always tell clients, and I caution them when they're going to an independent medical examination, that you have to talk to the doctor as to how you were hurt and what went on, but exactly what went on prior to when you were injured, and were you wearing a seatbelt, were you driving, had you been drinking any alcohol, what time did you get up that morning, things like that. Those are questions that go to the liability aspect of the case, and that's not really a question the doctor should be asking you. The doctor should be asking you questions that are focused on the medical treatment aspect of it. And sometimes you'll get a doctor that's going to ask you questions that are about the liability aspects of the case, in an effort to curry some favor with the defense doctors and see if they can get you to make statements that are going to contradict things that you've testified to in the course of a deposition. And then the last step is, after the independent medical examination is done, we file what's called a note of issue and certificate of readiness. Case is placed on the trial calendar, trial dates are selected, there'll be some motion practice, motion for summary judgment, motions in limine, dealing with evidence issues, and then if you're not able to settle it, the next step then is to pick a jury and start the trial.